Today is Friday, the 31st day of January 2025. I am George Wenner and I am here at Fort James, the iconic old fort here just in St. John's, and we're looking out at the St. John's Harbour. And for those of you who are not brave enough to come right here at the edge, well, that's another matter. But what is of significance is this passenger cruise ship. Now this is the Queen Mary 2, and the Queen Mary 2 is anchored just outside of the St. John's Harbour as depicted here in picture, because, well, how should we put it in mariner's term? The Queen Mary, though it's an old school vessel made many years ago, it has a very deep draft. That is to say, can't make it into the harbour. The harbour is not deep enough to accommodate this vessel that was constructed many years ago. It's not a modern vessel, but the draft is way too deep. And what has been happening is that the water taxi, or these little boats, lifeboats, they've been using these lifeboats to ferry passengers off of the Queen Mary 2 that is at anchor outside of the St. John's Harbour, and they have been ferrying passengers in. What is instructive here is that after years of dredging in the harbour, not only the harbour is not equipped to handle the modern Oasis class vessel, the large cruise liners, even cruise liners of old construction such as the Queen Mary 2, they can't come in and dock inside the St. John's Harbour. They can't come to berth at the piers in the St. John's Harbour because of the deep draft. The harbour is too shallow. And it was just this week we heard in the cabinet notes that even though there's cost overruns, and even though the dredging of the harbour is years, I think between 6-7 or so years beyond what was anticipated, estimated for completion, the cabinet is not penalizing Blue Ocean for the delays. Can you imagine? And today, the last day of January, the 31st, we have a situation where Queen Mary 2 has to be docking way out, virtually outside of the harbour, because it has a too deep a draft. The draft in the harbour is too shallow to accommodate Queen Mary. So after all that dredging, you know, that was going on in the St. John's Harbour, we still can't accommodate an old vessel like Queen Mary 2. This is not even the modern construction. So there you have it, folks. George Wenner holding their feet to the fire, keeping them honest.